Hello everyone, welcome to Naren's Life with MS. This is Naren and it's time for what MS has taught me. So, what do we talk about today? Because I haven't given it a single thought. But one thing that, MS has definitely taught me is, never make your plans concrete, right? Always leave room for adjustment. And the reason I say that, you should always be able to adjust something is because there is a higher likelihood of anything happening, right? A lot of times, what ends up happening is, you know, something that you're able to do yesterday, you may or may not be able to do tomorrow. But at the same time, something that you couldn't do yesterday might become possible tomorrow also. So, as a result, it becomes a little difficult to really understand, what tomorrow is going to look like just because today, or for that matter, yesterday, isn't the best baseline. And the reason I say that is, things change very, very quickly. One um, simple experience that one experience that I can definitely share in regards to this is, when I probably got COVID around 2022. uh, I remember feeling a little feverish when I was about to go to sleep, and then I wake up the next morning, get out of bed, and I'm not able to move. Like my legs felt so heavy. Um, I was having. I mean, obviously, I was still experiencing the fever, and my body felt inflamed. I was feeling very, very hot at that time, and temperature wise. And after all of that, there was the whole thing of me not being able to move, and so much so that because it was during COVID that this happened, um, people were a little, you know, people were a little confused about whether to leave the house or not. But thankfully, I was able to send someone out to get me some medication. Normally, when I experience that level of inflammation in my body where I'm not able to move my legs, I usually take ibuprofen during that time, and the ibuprofen actually helped, and it definitely reduced my fever. And I only really took maybe uh, two more pills, the following 2 days. After that, I was in a much better state. But uh, you know just thinking about the fact that in just one night I went from being able to walk to really not being able to move about as well. And the COVID happening at such a time where I definitely know that there is a difference between what I was before, like my physical abilities before COVID versus my physical abilities after COVID. um, so I definitely know that there is a certain um, difference in experiences that you might have. So always never try to keep your plans completely you know um, carved in stone. Definitely leave a little room for adjusting something, even if it is a little bit of time that you might need so that you can travel or do whatever you want. uh, and that just so happens that um, you get surprisingly more free time as a result of doing all of this, because you realize that you can't be as busy as you were beforehand. Now, do I miss being that busy? The answer is maybe a yes, maybe a no. There was definitely a lot more fun to be had back then, but at the same time, I definitely do also enjoy um, the act of doing absolutely nothing as well. So, there are pros and cons to either side. But definitely, I would say that MS teaching me this, that, you know, uh, there is nothing that, can't be moved. There is nothing that has to be so set in stone that it you know that there is no room for any adjusting. Cannot really exist once you have MS. And saying this, I know that there are people who have very strict regimens that they do follow on a day-to-day basis, even if they have MS. uh, and really, that I think even they would say that, you know despite having a strict regimen, despite having a very disciplined lifestyle, they also make room for a little bit of adjustment if there are certain things that they actually foresee, or they actually notice in their work, or their life, so that they can properly make sure that they do whatever they want, or make sure they do whatever they need. So that is one thing that I wanted to make you aware of, and definitely teach you something that MS has taught me. I know that I could have gone maybe a million different routes, but I did definitely want to share this one after last Truthful Tuesday, yesterday's Truthful Tuesday video, just because that was a little bit more on the slightly, I don't want to use the word scandalous. I think that's the wrong word. I'd say um, the more mishap, right? I would say the more incidental, incidental video, considering that what ended up happening. And trust me, that might just be sort of the start of any of the mishaps that have happened. I mean, there are so many other mishaps that have happened. So yes, with that said, I did want to definitely share this one small one small lesson, and I do hope that you know you might have learned that lesson. And this is a lesson that does not really require us to be with a lifelong autoimmune condition. This is something that almost everyone should be able to realize, that nothing is so important that everything has to fit a certain timeline, right? Just like how meetings can go overboard by a few minutes to a lot more time. Same way, your lifestyle can also use a little bit more free time, a little bit more adjusting time, so that you have the ability to actually enjoy whatever you're doing. And with that said, here I am wishing you good night. Of course, please do share your thoughts, your stories, your experiences, your insights, and your opinions on whatever I've shared so that we can get the conversation started. And do please answer, what are some things that you have maybe made certain adjustments for? How have you made your daily calendar a little more uh, breathable, if I can say, or a little more adjustable so that you're able to at least do a much better job with everything? Um, and I say this knowing that, definitely while growing up, I definitely was in a system where um, everything everything was organized to the minute, right? I mean, we would go to school, our school bus would come at this time. If the school bus hadn't crossed, I even calculated the algorithm of, which stoplight did my school bus have to cross at a certain point in time to allow me those extra 3 minutes to at school before I had to head to my first class. Like, I had gotten to this level, and of course, everything was pretty much a lot more compact, considering you go to school for 7 to 8 hours, and then after that you come back, then you go to your you know your clarinet classes. I mean, I would do my clarinet classes, and then I'd come back, do homework, and prepare for everything. And then, of course, a lot of times when I was in school, I would of course do a lot of after school activities, from band to volunteering to uh, debate. um, I even played badminton for a little bit. Wasn't really good at it, but all of those activities pretty much combined to give me a very packed schedule when I was growing up. But I'm pretty sure almost everyone had very packed schedules growing up. And now, when I'm a little bit older, definitely a little more into the MS, I definitely had to learn the hard way of giving myself a little more breathing room. So, yes, please do share how you made your life a little more adjustable. And with that said, again, I want to repeat a good night, sweet dreams, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.